So welcome guys, however you're listening, wherever you're listening, and welcome to TAP, also known as the Alphabet Podcast. Now, no one is more surprised than me to actually be recording this podcast today, because unbeknownst to you guys, I'd actually decided to take a little bit of a break from podcasting. Because as most of you know, I'm not a natural podcaster. It was just one of my very many ideas, but I am a therapist out here working in the real world. And this podcast was my way of trying to give something back and trying to make mental health a bit more accessible for all. But when I started, I didn't take into account how draining it can be. It's not just a simple case of just sitting down in front of a mic. Of work goes in behind the scenes. I like to be well researched for the most part, and be quite scripted, because it's important when you're trying to put information out there that you put in the correct information. And because of that, a lot of research goes into it. And alongside my caring responsibilities and me trying to be a therapist out here in the real world, it became a bit of a lot. So the schedule became a bit inconsistent. At the beginning, it was weekly, but it was hard to maintain. So I hold my hands up. It was a bigger endeavor than I could ever have imagined, but I'm still grateful for all of it. So unbeknownst to you guys, I had decided to take a break with a couple of my friends about it. My accountability partner, hey big sis, over in Derby, who was taking the responsibility to motivate me every week by ringing me up and acting as my accountability partner, holding me accountable and making sure that I stuck to the goals that I'd set at the beginning of the year. So it's been a learning process and it's been fun. I can't say it hasn't been fun. I've particularly enjoyed when I've had people to bounce off, because I think until you actually get in front of a mic and try to start a podcast, you don't realize how hard it is to actually sit in a room and speak to yourself. So I try to send the energy, and my natural personality is quite energized, but I feel like I go into a bit of a role as a therapist and maybe dial it back a bit. But I'm enthusiastic about certain things again. Let's just say my mojo's back a little bit. So Holly, if you're watching, Holly is a lovely lady that I've been introduced to. So that's one of the good things that's come out of my work on this podcast. I've managed to network and come across very many knowledgeable people that have given me opportunities, and I've been able to brainstorm with and just expand my knowledge as a therapist and share ideas with like-minded people. So Holly is someone that works on a platform called Soul Sanity, where you have host therapists that host segments on different things about mental health. And we've been put in contact via my supervisor. Thank you, Carol, for always thinking of me. And I thought it was a good opportunity, a bit out of my comfort zone, but I've been doing this podcast now for a while. So I thought, why not try to take up some of the opportunities? And it reinvigorated me, because like I said, I've become quite drained with this podcast. But when I was trying to, I wouldn't say jump through hoops, but trying to brainstorm with Holly, and Holly setting me an agenda, like, how would you set it out? How would you do this? What ideas would you have? And one of the ideas that I put forward was this idea of gratitude. So, Holly got back to me and said, Liana, how would you present this on the platform? And it made me realize that as much as I don't mind adding value to someone's platform, especially if I'm being paid for the privilege, actually, I have more passion for building my own platform. So what started off as some ideas to give Holly for this platform has ended up being an impromptu podcast that I thought, rather than use and add value to someone else's platform, I'd put it onto my own platform for free. And once again, go back to what it was in the beginning for me, making mental health accessible for all, not just people that can pay for it. So it's towards the end of the year now. I think a lot of things are winding down, a lot of business winding down, people looking forward to the Christmas period. For those of you that don't celebrate, some of the time off work, all of the other festivals and different religious festivals that happen during this time. But for the most part, just looking forward to spending quality time with family. Maybe a lot of people are stressed out, spending money that they don't have on presents that nobody really needs, because it's this idea of giving. And it's been really, really dark, very glum this year. And I think it's very easy to get into this hibernation mode, because I've been in hibernation mode for a couple of months now. Like, my friends haven't seen me, and if things continue the way they're going, they probably won't be seeing me till March. But you probably noticed that I am dressed a little bit out of the regular for me, but I have an all black party to go to. It's my brother's partner's 21st birthday celebration tonight. So I'm making an effort to come out of my comfort zone, i.e. my yard, because this dark and cold doesn't inspire much. So I hope that you guys are really investing in self-care, doing all the things that make you feel good, but equally getting out for the few hours a day that there is sunshine, because there isn't much of it, let's face it, but we need as much of the sunlight as we can. How many of you have invested in a sun lamp, a sad lamp, or the light lamps that help with seasonal depression? I might have to invest in one myself, to be honest with you, because this is the first year that I've really thought that, yeah, this darkness does have an effect on my mood. And I know for 2-3 million people, at least in this country, they will be affected by it. So make sure that you're really topping up your self-care, but equally making plans to get out. So I know it's difficult and it doesn't inspire you when you look outside and it's dark and it's cold, but still making an effort to meet up with friends and get out there, and maybe taking your vitamin D supplements, just doing all the things that make you feel good. But equally, if you are at home, making the most of being at home. So some home improvements, potentially having a project to look forward to, some good box sets. I'm rewatching Game of Thrones for about the 100th millionth time. But yeah, it's important that we look after ourselves. But gratitude is something that a lot of us understand and probably look at as being grateful. You hear the word, oh, gratitude, you should be, gratitude, and you should be grateful. And we hear that all the time, you should be grateful. But what does grateful even really mean? To me, when I think of being grateful, I think of the obvious things, the things I have that I am grateful for, the obvious things like my family, my friends, certain aspects of my lifestyle, just the things that people in general, if you ask them, would tell you that they're grateful for. But, on a regular basis, on a daily basis, how often do we actually sit down intentionally and focus on the positive things that we have in our life? So if someone asks us what we're grateful for, we can probably reel off a few things, but how often do we intentionally focus on the positive things in our life? And that is really what gratitude is about. So if you was to ask me what is gratitude, it's a lot more than having things to be grateful for. It's intentionally focusing on the things that we overlook. And there are many things that we overlook. Excuse me. I'm not so grateful for this cough. It's been lingering for a while, but I'm grateful that it's nothing more sinister than a cough. I'm asthmatic, have had it checked out, so I'm grateful for that. But when I think about gratitude and being grateful, I remember just go back to my childhood experiences and being told whenever I did something wrong, how ungrateful I was. I'm not so much focused on grateful, but not appearing to be ungrateful. But, it's a lot more than that. And why is it important? Why is it important to be grateful? And why is it important to express gratitude? Because they are slightly different. We have things to be grateful for, but expressing gratitude and practicing gratitude is a lot more intentional. I think the reason why gratitude is so important to me is because life is always lifing. There are so many negative things going on in the world, and it's very easy to focus on the negatives. You look at social media and you see all the worst things about society. You look at the news, it's all of the worst things. And life is not easy. It's full of stress. And when we're stressed out, it's very easy to just run with that. We're stressed out. What the hell does having things to be grateful? How's that going to help me with my stress? But today, we're going to have a look at the art of practicing gratitude. So I'm going to start by saying that gratitude is a lot more than just being grateful. So I hope that you're still listening, because what happens sometimes is that people, they see a topic and it's something that they think particularly and doesn't really resonate with me. But like I keep saying, there's something in it for everyone. And gratitude is certainly something that can have benefits for all of us. So we're going to have a look a bit at the benefits of gratitude. But we try to balance things up, and we have to be realistic. But like I say, life is always lifing. So if gratitude is so great, why are we not doing it? And that's because there are certain challenges when it comes to intentionally looking at things that are positive. We're going to have a look a bit about how to practice gratitude, like best practice for gratitude. A lot of you may have heard of gratitude journals, but there's many ways to express gratitude in small ways that can contribute to both our mental and physical health. at the end, I'm just going to have look a little bit at goals, because it's that time of year. I don't know if people still set resolutions. I don't think I've set a New Year's resolution for about 20 years now. And that's mainly because after about 2 weeks, I don't ever stick to it. My thing for this year is goals, not resolutions, because resolutions clearly do not work because we're setting them every year. And why do we need a set date to start working on our goals? So we're going to have a look at that. So, like I've said, what is gratitude? Well, I've said as a child being called ungrateful, but it's really about honing in on the small little things. And those things are not just necessarily people, but they could be events, small little gifts, unexpected things, just things that we may overlook when we're stressed out and life is really challenging, as it is for a lot of people. The cost of living doesn't help, constantly being worried about being able to pay all the bills. It's not really, it doesn't seem like there's much to be grateful for, but I like the saying that there's always something to be grateful for and someone to be grateful for. I have a mentor that I had when I was training, Annie May. So Annie May, I hope you're listening. Whenever I think about gratitude, Annie May's face comes to my mind, and she's someone that has a natural sunny disposition. So I think people that are blessed with that sunny disposition may find it a little bit easier to practice gratitude. But what I take from that, whenever I have encounters with Annie May, is the positivity. I spoke to her at a particularly challenging time when she lost someone very close to her, and straight away she was very grateful. And she said to me, Leanna, it's always important that we lead with gratitude. And it took it a while to sink in for me, because I'm thinking, yeah, gratitude, I ain't got much to be feeling grateful for right now. Yeah, whatever. But as time's gone on and I've focused on being intentionally more grateful. Thank you, Carol, for this gratitude diary. This is what really set it off for me, being gifted this. So I was grateful for the gift of this, but this is the gift that keeps on giving. And it's only when I started working my way through that I realized how many things I overlooked in my everyday life. And I would say I don't possess a natural sunny disposition. I'm quite miserable for the most part, to be fair. So practicing gratitude was quite an endeavor for me. But yeah, so why is gratitude needed? Like I said, so many negatives in life. We can't really control what goes on outside of us, but we can work on how we respond to things. And I think gratitude is very important part of the puzzle when we're looking at that. Gratitude on a basic level builds resilience and a more positive outlook. And we know already from attachment and having that positive worldview, how important that is to being happy in life. I'm not trying to convince anybody to do anything they don't want to do, but it's free. So why wouldn't we practice gratitude? Well, hopefully by the end of this, we'll know why. So what are some of the benefits? Okay, so one of the first benefits of gratitude, and I mean expressing gratitude, is the impact on mood. So I've spoken before in different podcasts, I'm a sports scientist, but those happy hormones. So you get surges of dopamine and, feel like you're on dope. So the dopamine is a neurotransmitter that promotes that natural high. I think it happens with runners. Sometimes they get the runner's high when you're running. It's just that feeling of and that experience of all those positive emotions. And actually the surge of dopamine that you get when you're expressing gratitude can actually make those feelings last a lot longer. But we also have the serotonin. Now, we can get serotonin from eating chocolate, from things like sex. That's also a lot of fun, guys. Let's be real. It's a happy hormone or chemical, if you want to call it that promotes feelings of well-being, but also stabilizes mood. So in conditions like depression, you'll find that there are low serotonin levels, and antidepressants aim to work on that. But here's a big one, and it's something that most people probably wouldn't be aware of, because it's something that even I was only vaguely aware of, and I had to look a bit more at it. But actually, expressing gratitude can actually give you lasting changes in your brain. Okay, so it can actually change the way that your brain is wired into becoming more positive. So for those of you who are scientifically inclined, I've made a few notes here just for those of you. So there will be greater activity in the medial prefrontal cortex. There's been some studies where they've done MRI scans on people that are verbally expressing gratitude, as opposed to those who are thinking about gratitude and not expressing it. And there have been changes in the brain shown on MRI scans that show that, yeah, there's greater activity there. But also there is an activation of the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, VMPFC, and this is associated with altruism. So that's being helpful and doing good things, basically. And it can actually, the brain starts to crave the activity of giving. So how cool is that? You can actually, just by simply expressing gratitude, make positive changes, permanent changes to your brain. But on a more simple level, just the impact on perspective. Because like I've said, loads of things happen and people happen. You can't always control people and their responses, but when you're focusing on gratitude and what you have in your life that's positive, it has an impact on your perspective. So you're probably able to put things into perspective a lot easier than someone who doesn't practice expressing gratitude. So there's an impact on overall well-being. I mean, this is a mental health podcast. I wouldn't be talking about it if it didn't, but just the feeling of well-being. Just think about when you think about people that you love and just those sensations that you get in your body. So if you can imagine intentionally focusing on doing that a lot of the time, it's going to have a good effect on your well-being. Resilience, which is something that's underrated. I do think that part of having positive mental health is building resilience. So not just falling apart at the first challenge. Some people may disagree with that, but resilience is something that we can all build, and that is looking at our support systems and what we can do ourselves. So self-help, support that's out there, but it can make you more resilient in the face of challenges. And in something that's like life, where it's continuously lifing, we need that. Improve focus. Someone like me who finds it very hard to focus, just actually sitting down and being reflective and forcing yourself to focus can actually improve your focus. So I'll ask you again, why wouldn't you want to express gratitude? So you have a more positive outlook, greater patience. It's no coincidence that you find these patient types and they're very grateful and usually have a sunny disposition. But you can work on having more of a sunny disposition if you're not possessed naturally with one. Like I said, I'm miserable a lot of the time. But when I actually intentionally focus on the things I'm grateful for, I'm not so miserable. The physical benefits. So it is a mental health podcast, but the two things, physical and mental health, often go together. So the physical benefits, less stress. Okay, so less stress is going to lower your blood pressure, your heart rate, your blood pressure, and things like better sleep. So there's so many reasons to practice gratitude: physical reasons, emotional reasons, better relationships. If you're grateful for the small things, you're going to be more appreciative. It's going to help you to maintain connections and build rapport with people. But like I say, if it's so easy, why are we not doing it? So come on, man, this is life. We're always going to have challenges and reasons to be down and negative things to deal with, you know? It's life. And there's nothing that we can do to change the fact that life is sometimes negative. So I've already mentioned it, not everyone is a happy-go-lucky, sunny type of person. So that will be a challenge for you. If you're someone that's miserable, the idea of practicing gratitude is going to seem quite alien to you. But if you have all of these benefits, I would say that far outweighs the desire to remain miserable. And maybe that's contributing to you being miserable. The fact that you're not trying to do things consciously and intentionally to improve your mood. So things like low mood that are associated with depression. Depression can be associated with a lot of negative feelings, as we've spoken about. And it's very hard to feel positive when you're feeling quite negative about yourself. But simply having something like a gratitude diary can, once again, intentionally get you to focus on some of the positive things, which could be helpful. Life is life, so we don't want to be doing anything that's going to stress us out even more. Like, why do I want to practice gratitude? That sounds like one more thing to do. But it's one more thing that will improve your overall well-being. It feels like a chore, and that's something that gets thrown at me a lot. It's like, oh God, a gratitude journal, people roll their eyes. But you don't have to do it every day. You just have to be consistent with it. And like most chores, once you get into it, you may find that you find some enjoyment in it. I apologize, guys. This cough is really annoying. But this is a real big one, guys. Envy. Envy. And it's very easy to be envious. I think we're all envious of something or someone at some point. And social media, I think, drives that a lot, because it's very easy to look at other people's lives and feel like they're doing so much better than you. They're so much happier. They're so much richer. They're so much thinner. But these things, as we know, are not always the case. You might even be looking at your friends and be like envying their relationship. It's not always a sign of that you're a bad person to be envious. If you're severely jealous and bad mind, there ain't much cure for bad mind in my book. But to be envious is quite normal. It's quite a natural emotion to actually not look at ourselves and look outside at other people and compare ourselves and feel quite inferior in comparison. So envy is a big one. But also, if you are someone that feels like you're suffering from being envious a lot of the time, practicing gratitude and intentionally focusing on the positive things in your life can actually help you to be less envious. So it's a win-win in terms of that. But what are the ways that that people practice gratitude? Because I knew about gratitude journals even before I was a therapist. No real interest to me until it was gifted to me and I took a different look. But gratitude journals are very good, and it could just be a simple one where you're just listing 3 things that you're grateful for, or it could be a more advanced one like this one where you might be acknowledging like small unexpected gifts. Could be a quick chat with a stranger that you're grateful for, especially if you're someone that doesn't have much contact with people and you're quite lonely. Something that you did after work. You might be going to the pub with friends, or having time to go to the gym because someone was looking after your child, or you just had that free time. Things that made you smile. How many smiles do we give out a day? But when we're going home and we're relaying our day to our partners and our loved ones, we tend to remember the things that are negative. I mean, I used to work in customer service, and if you asked me, there was nothing to be grateful for. Every day I was coming home cussing about some ranking, rude customer that just totally ruined my day. When actually, there might have been that one customer, but there will be 50 to 100 customers that were perfectly pleasant, that I had these interesting conversations with, that made me smile, that made me laugh. But focusing on the negative keeps the brain in a negative space. So I like to practice gratitude before bed. Some people like to do it in the morning. And I suppose if you did it in the morning, you'd probably start the day in a good mood. But if you did it at night, I think you'd be more reflective, and it probably would help you sleep. You go to sleep with positive thoughts and positive things going into your unconscious. But it's just a preference. It's just a preference. However you do it, the most important thing is that you do it. Who you enjoy spending time with and why. I think it's important to look at that. Just let me quickly have a look in this diary and see if there's anything else that I can pick out in terms of that. But feel free to get yourselves one of these guys, because these are really good. Things like I'm thankful for, things I want to remember from today, good things I did for someone today, people I love talking to today, silly things that happened today. What else have we got? Relaxing moments I had today, people I love talking today, moments I felt appreciated today, things I want to remember from today, small things that made me smile, nice things someone did for me. And it goes on. Friends I thought about today, things from today I'd like to do again tomorrow. It's just little things. But gratitude journals are not the only way. They're the most common thing that people think of, but they're not the only way. So things like a gratitude letter, where you could write a letter to a past mentor or teacher or someone significant in your life, dead or alive, and really just focusing on explaining to them what they did for you at that time and how it affected you, your feelings, any feelings that come up for you, and why it's still important to you. Because there are so many positive influences that come in and out of our lives. And it's important to remember these things because they often play a part in who we are today. So notes of appreciation, and you can do these little post-it notes with your partner, or little thank you letters or notes to thank people for small things. And like I say, this is good for relationships. Everyone likes to be appreciated. If you find it hard to say it verbally, maybe leaving little notes and let your family and friends know how much you appreciate them. Make you feel good, can change your brain. But this is a good one. And this is something that we can all use it for. I think it's very hard to be grateful when things go really wrong. So using gratitude to revisit and reframe things in our life. So when we're looking at revisit and reframing, we're talking about looking at past regretful events. Okay, so this is good for promoting healing, but you're looking at these past regretful events that may make you feel shame, heartbreak, disappointment, etc. And we're looking at it, but we're looking at it in a different way. So we're looking at it from a different perspective. We're looking at what we learned. What did we learn from this experience? So someone's broken our heart and misabused our trust. So what did we learn? How did it contribute to our growth? So now this person's broken our trust. So now we might be more cautious. But equally, we might have learned to become more compassionate. Or we might have learned that more boundaries are needed. Or we might have learned something about ourselves, something that we're doing to contribute to some negative experiences. So finding lessons in tough experiences helps create more gratitude. So a good exercise to do if you have time, because some people do think of the negative before the positive, but list your misfortunes and then do a separate list where you write down the lessons you learn from each, because there's always something to be grateful for. So if you learned something from it, that's contributed to your growth. So that's analogy. So not only are we talking about gratitude and a bit later on goals, but growth and how it contributes to growth. You can combine this activity with journaling. This practicing gratitude is a good way to start getting into journaling, which is very important at giving your emotions somewhere to go. And it's also reflective, so you can look back and see the different headspaces that you were in and find patterns and stuff like that. But another good one is to count how many things you can find in each room of your home to be grateful for. So that might involve going into the kitchen and looking at the things in there, going into the front room. Maybe if your child's sitting on the sofa, you can count them too, or your partner having a little snore, count them. Count how many things you can find in each room to be grateful for. We live in a very digital age. Any young people listening or technology type people, take a daily photo of something that you're grateful for. Maybe put it on your social media, #365. What are you grateful for? Another common one that I've seen people do in the past, gratitude jars, writing down on a piece of paper. Doesn't have to be every day, but the more regular, the better with all of these things, these self-help things. I'm thankful for whatever it is today because whatever reason you're thankful for. But, that's when you're having a particularly bad day and just going into that jar and opening up one of those things and just remembering the many things that you have to be grateful for. This is another big one. And most of us are actually like this. So get used to receiving thanks. And notice if you are the thanker or the person being thanked. Now, a lot of us tend to be the thankers. So we're quite comfortable saying thank you to someone for something that they've done, but we're not so comfortable receiving thanks. So it's working on just being grateful and receiving that thanks with grace, because that's important too. And sometimes when you tell people what you appreciate in them, they come back to you and tell you what they appreciate about you. So once again, it's helping you build relationships. So yeah, when I think about my journey with this podcast, it started over a year ago. And I just had this idea and I bought a mic. And it was a goal of mine, but I didn't know what to do next. So having spoke about gratitude, I'm hoping that you guys understand how that works. It's getting to that time of year where people are trying to set resolutions, right? Now, like I said, I haven't set resolutions for many years just because I don't feel like they work. And I don't feel like they work for a particular reason. And that's that they're not very well tailored. You take a general statement like, I want to go to the gym or I want to lose weight. But there's a lot of phases that are involved between starting your journey of weight loss to where you end up. So SMART goals are something that have been around for a long time. The best way to set goals. So we have the SMART acronym, and the S would be specific, the M measurable, A achievable, R relevant, and T time bound. So like I said, SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Now, whenever you set a goal, this is the kind of process that you should go through, because like I say, if the goal is not specific, i.e. what needs to be done is very specific, it's going to be quite general, and there's going to be more ways that you're going to fall short. Okay? It needs to be measurable. This is why I say goals, not resolutions. How will I know when I've reached this goal? How are we measuring it? So like I say, if I'm losing weight, am I going to weigh myself on the scales? Or am I going to measure myself in inches? Or am I going to see how my clothes fit me? But that's why it's important to be specific. So when going back to saying you want to lose weight, be specific. I want to lose 6 pounds. Not just I want to lose weight. I want to lose a stone or 3 stones. Be specific. The more specific you can be, the better your goal will be. Okay, so achievable. And this might mean a reality check. Now, I might want to lose weight. I might want to lose 6 stone and become a size 0. But I know biologically that's not going to happen. Okay, so it's about that reality check. How realistic and achievable is your goal? Because if it's not achievable or realistic, then you're going to fail. You've already failed. So the aim is to reach this goal. Okay, so how you know, why are you setting this goal? Is a good question to ask. Why am I setting this goal? Because you need motivation to fulfill goals. Okay, so time bound, when will it end? I mean, a goal that goes on forever and ever and ever is not, it's going to be boring. It's going to be boring. When will it end? When will this ever end? There's going to be no motivation. So like I said, I decided that I wanted to set up this podcast, bought a mic, and thought, now what? So I need some more specific goals. There's a lot of steps that go into setting up a podcast. You don't just pick up a mic and start talking. You need to research. You need to figure out how to edit. You need to have content. So all of these things. So I set it up. And you also need, in some cases, someone to give you that extra motivation. So in my case, I had an accountability partner. Hi again, Marie. And just calling me every week and making sure that I am sticking to the goals that I set for myself. But by having a clear timeline and being as specific as possible, you increase the likelihood that you will reach this goal. But SMART is something that you can look up. But I am a therapist, and I do like to try to look at things in a different way and break it down so that the everyday person can get something from it. So I would also say, when setting goals, look at some of the helpful things that can support you in your goal, but equally look at some of the hindering forces. So, for example, if I decided that I wanted to give up drinking alcohol, it probably wouldn't be helpful for me to go to the pub every week with my friends, just in that period when I'm trying to wean myself off, or it probably wouldn't be a good idea to put myself in a setting which is based around alcohol. So looking at that, and so that would be a hindering force. So maybe having to look at some of the settings that you put yourself in, some of the social groups, so if I wanted to lose weight and lose 6 pounds, it might not be helpful for me to buy loads of biscuits and crisps and chocolates and have them in my house. That might be hindering force. So we're looking at reducing the hindering things and increasing the helpful things. So now, if I don't have these things in my house, it then makes it harder for me to eat the things that are going to make me put on weight. And it also gives me time to think about, actually, this is my goal. I don't want to eat excessively, or I don't want to eat things that are going to prevent me from reaching my goal. The same for drinking, smoking, whatever your goal is. But it's also looking at people that can support you in your goal. So like I said, I took on board an accountability partner because I know that I can give up so easily. I could have all these specific goals, and because of certain things that I struggle with, it would never come to light because I've actually moved on to something else now. So actually my goal was to start a podcast, but now I want to do something else. And that is very much my personality. So actually having someone to keep me on track and actually be able to read back to me and say, okay, 9 months ago, this was your goal. You wanted to start your podcast by the summer. And, looking back at how it started, I wasn't ready to start. I'm still not ready in terms of, don't have these amazing production and all these editing skills, but things like that can stop you from starting. So sometimes you just have to throw yourself out there. But like I say, it's goals, not resolutions. So guys, what are you grateful for this year? Because I'm sure it's been the same for you as it has for me, like a mixed bag of the shit. It's been a shit sandwich of a year. I'll say that my year started off quite well. My personal life was great. Then I had to deal with some heartbreak. But, I expressed some gratitude. I'm grateful for the lessons. and letting me realize that my repetition compulsion for emotionally unavailable people still exists. And actually looking closer at that and looking at how I'm making certain choices that are giving me the same type of partners. So being grateful for the learning. I had some health challenges. I had an experience earlier on in the year where I had to have a blood transfusion, and it was a bit touch and go. It was quite a dire situation. And I could look at that and be like, oh my gosh, that's so negative. But what I took out of that is that I'm still here. And I have many people that care for me and checked on me and supported me through my health struggles. And I am still here. So it showed me that I'm stronger than I thought possible. And having overcome it, I feel stronger. Just the family and friends. Family, sometimes they can annoy you and you don't really look at them in a positive light, but just being grateful that you have family that you're connected to, especially being Christmas and this time of year. There's so many people that are not connected with their family and the effect that has on them. So it's just being mindful and once again, being grateful for the small things and learning those lessons and letting it contribute to your growth. And then meeting someone that was more suitable for me. So a perfect partner. So there are things to be grateful for. So what makes your gratitude list? Are you thinking about the people? Are you your friends, loved ones? Are you thinking about your job that you love or enjoy? Maybe you have a good salary, you have a nice car, you have children that are healthy. There's so many things to be grateful for, small little things. By the grace of God go I, is another saying that I quite like the sound of. So, it's going to continue to be hard. I mean, the cost of living is really riding people. But gratitude is a small, small way that we can contribute to our own positive mental well-being. So why won't we do it? So start having a think before you get to the end of the year, guys. What are you grateful for? What's the learning that you've taken from this year? What are the goals that you want to set yourself for next year? And remember, with goals, they can be short-term, medium, or long-term. So it's good to have a combination of goals. Maybe get a vision board so that you can see these things, because some people just having a goal on a piece of paper is not helpful. It's about becoming the best versions of ourselves, for ourselves and for no one else. Life is for living. And there are circumstances that have led some of us to feel like we're stuck or we're trapped, but we don't have to stay that way. We don't have to stay that way. Okay, let's start expressing some gratitude. So Holly, this is something similar that I would have liked to have done on your platform. Obviously, a lot more interactive, but the hardest thing is to sit in a room and speak to yourself. Having people to bounce off is easy. Sit in the room speaking by yourself, that is the interview in itself. So for those of you that have had experience of being on a podcast and doing it solo, great, you'll understand what I'm talking about. For those of you that don't, maybe try it. Set yourself some goals that take you out of your comfort zone for 2024. But I'm thankful for you guys, the viewers, the listeners. I was just a new therapist out here in the world that had an idea to start a podcast. The fact that I probably only have about 10 friends and there's more than 10 people viewing it means that there are people that are believing in the message and the vision. And that's what I want you guys to do. Be a part of this. Become a part of this. I'm going to improve as a podcaster. I'm going to improve as a therapist for this experience. All I need is some interaction. Let me know what it is that you're struggling with. I'm going to keep on saying it, but I'm still going to take a break because, like I say, this year's been draining. I'm grateful for the learning, for the support. I get such lovely messages on TikTok, people telling me that they really bought into the content and to keep it up. And I'm grateful for all of those messages. Opportunities, people considering me for job opportunities. I'm grateful for all of it. But it's important that you recognize what you need. And for me at the moment, a small break. So this will be the last podcast for the year. But coming up in 2024, I have a couple of very exciting interviews with one particular guest that I've been trying to bump into for the longest time. But I'm not going to give you any more than that, other than that she is also someone that's local to Brixton and she's also well known in the area. And some of you may have seen her on different podcasts and things on Facebook, and she's now written a book. But that's stuff to look forward to for 2024 and making it a bit more interactive with you guys. Maybe you guys need a bit more from me, because why should you buy into someone that you know nothing about? But what are the stuff that you're interested in? What do you want to know about me? I mean, I think I'm quite boring, but my friends will tell you that I've lived quite a colourful life, and I am the accidental therapist. You know, I'm not this overly well-read person that's very stiff. I've been through shit, and I understand that life is not perfect, and I'm not here to judge. I'm not a perfect person either. But, you know, just tell me your story. And if I have to tell you mine for you to tell me yours, then I'll tell you my story. So what is it that you need from me in 2024? Because the Alphabet podcast is not going away. It may be rebranded in time, but it's here to stay, guys. So, you know, thank you so much for everything and all the support that you guys have given me this year. This was a very unscripted, impromptu podcast. So as you can see, we are going to the All Black party and we're going to have some fun. So remember to enjoy it and make the most of all of the many things that you might possibly be overlooking. Okay? Gratitude, growth, goals. That's what we're about in 2024. So thank you guys for joining me on Tap, also known as the Alphabet Podcast, with me, Lee the therapist, the accidental therapist. But yeah, I'm around and I'll catch up with you guys soon. So happy Christmas if you celebrate, Kwanzaa. Happy New Year, guys. Happy time off if you don't celebrate anything. Just be grateful that we're here to have time off and to have family if we do. Check in on people because it's a difficult time of year for many. I know for me, I lost my grandmother 2 days before Christmas in 2017. So for my family, there's always a somber mood. But just remember that not everybody has family and loads of friends to look forward to enjoying. So look out for your neighbors and just do something kind for someone just because, for no other reason than you can. So guys, have a good Christmas, have a good New Year, and I'll see you in 2024.